All right, welcome everybody. We're going to do something I don't think I've ever done, and that's a series of short podcasts. And you know me, I talk a lot. I just put it all out there. But Jason Rulo and I have been talking since last year about putting together some cool WTM content. So welcome to it. We are going to bring you, we think, 5 episodes, but it might be broken up. Gear, nutrition, thermoregulation, pit crew, and then we're going to get into the venue and specific obstacles as we get closer. But give you a quick bio on Jason, who I've known since the old days. He's done WTM every year since 2012, just like me. Missed 2011. He's run so what is that? 12 times, 11 times individual, once as a team. He got 75 miles in 2021. He's, we believe, 7th or 6th or 5th or 8th in all-time mileage. We're not quite sure on that. The point is, he's been through it all. Okay, he's seen the weather changes. He's seen the venue and the weather changes. Jersey, Vegas, Atlanta, Laughlin, all the fucking places. And last year was Florida or Alabama.
Yeah. Alabama, yeah.
So we've known each other a long time. I like him a lot, and he's got a lot of really, really good info. So anything else you want to say before we dive into gear, chapter 1, gear?
No, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to help you re-record this, re-release it to the world, because it's always good stuff. I think even people that are vets can forget what they knew from prior times. Let's say they skipped a year or whatever. So it's going to be good stuff.
Well, and I even forget sometimes, Jason, because like this is what I do all the time, right? But people will say like, "Oh man, I was driving up to something, I was listening," and it's like gold to them because they've never done it. So if you're new,
Yeah.
dude, welcome. It's awesome. It is literally my favorite event. I've done every obstacle race there is to do. I've been all over the world. This is my favorite event. It's the one event I don't miss every year. So welcome to the party.
That's right. Exactly. It's a big party, big family reunion every year.
All right. So where do we want to start with gear? Do we want to go from the bottom up? We're going to start with the top up. What do we want to
do? Well, what I was thinking is that, I'll give some pointers and then I can kind of review all the gear that I typically bring. And, since you've been there so many years, so many different places, we can kind of discuss the different options because everybody's got their own opinion. In fact, I would tell you that there is too many opinions out there. I always love, everybody's got a voice on Facebook, and that's fine. It's all good. But, when you get somebody who's out there, he's only been to Atmore, and he's like, oh, no, this is the best thing to use. Like, dude, you got a experience of one. It's fine to go ahead and say, well, this is what I did. Okay, good. That's good input. But sometimes when people are new, they get a flux of information and they don't know how to decipher what worked and what might not work. And this worked for this guy. The one thing I will tell you, having done it so many times, it works one year and then the next year all goes to shit. You're like, well, that didn't work. I got to change my plan. Even though it worked last year, it didn't work this year. You show up in Atmore and you thought it was going to be warm and it wasn't warm. And the gear you had wasn't quite what you needed and all that kind of stuff. And I will tell you, the one thing I will say about the venue, I know we're going to save that, but I have a friend that lives in Fort Worth, and he told me as we're driving back from Atmore, the weather in Fort Worth that year, the last year, was exactly the same as Atmore. Exactly the same temperatures, same wind, everything last year. So we just don't know what we're up for. But gear-wise, I think if we kind of go through like a general list of things that are recommended, and then I can go through my stuff and we can kind of discuss that.
All right, let's dive in, and I'll give my 2 cents as a guy who's been there and run it. I ran it. I signed up and ran in 2014. That was the sandstorm year. DNF'd at 25 miles midnight, and 2016 was the year I made it all the way through. Got my 50. Thrilled about that. And then every other year, I usually run what's called the media lap. 1 lap and have some fun, but I've been there and I've seen a lot, and I've talked to a lot of folks, so I'll throw my 2 cents in, but you are the subject matter expert here, so off you go.
All right, well, so I'm just gonna, like I said, I got a series of notes that from what I did before, and I'll kind of run through those and we can discuss each one of them. You know, the one of the biggest problems that I've had every single year is because it's just I don't know why I've had bad luck with the Black Diamond Storm headlamp, but it just leaks. So since it leaks, I have to seal it every year. But a good waterproof headlamp and plenty of batteries. Number one thing, anytime you're coming to World Stuff is make sure you got your headlamp and you got what I would tell you, lithium batteries are the way to go. Now, there's a lot of new stuff. If you get one of these fancy new headlamps, it's got the battery in the back, and you know it can last like 9 hours. And also, well, that might last 9 hours, but if it gets really cold, you just never know. So make sure you got backup batteries and that type of stuff.
And guess what else might happen? You might lose it in a water obstacle. You might take it off in the dark and never find it again. So
exactly, yeah. So to fix that problem about losing it in the obstacle, hopefully you've got it tethered to your bib somewhere. You know, I always take a little piece of elastic string and put a carabiner on it, and clip it on the back of my headlamp, and clip it on the back of my bib. You know, the devil's beard kind of plays havoc with that. So does the back of the mutter horn, where it can get grab your. I've had I don't even know how it happened. My carabiner clipped on to the one that was holding my headlamp, clipped on to mutter horn on the way down. It literally clipped and hung me there. So I had to have somebody else come unclip it. You just never know what can happen in the middle of the night, you know, going through an obstacle. But that'll keep you from losing your headlamp. I know people that they get lazy, they don't want to do it. But then the one time you think you're not going to fall off a funky monkey, and you do, and then your headlamp's gone, and now you're following other people for the rest of the lap because you can't see where you're going. So that's a definite thing. I just always lead with that, because people, it's like a given when you're not having the cliff jump like we used to have, where people would lose their headlamp all the time or hit them in the face or whatever. It seems like a no brainer, but you know, I got to mention that stuff.
hey, I just want to say
one of the things that
when we're done talking, you can send me all this and we can put this into the link in the description, by the way.
yeah, show notes. Yeah, for sure. And you know me, I do my homework on everything. So I got all this stuff all typed out and everything. There's so much information. I've done this so many times, stuff will just pass through. I'm like, oh man, I forgot to say that. But one thing that I can always recommend, assuming you're not flying, and if you are flying, then you have to kind of take this with a grain of salt, but always bring all your gear. Now, that doesn't mean you have to bring every single item, but bring gear for every contingency. Because if you show up and you wish you didn't bring your full wetsuit because you thought, oh, it's going to be warm, it's Fort Worth, and then you show up and there's no full wetsuit, and next thing you know, something blows in. I can tell you, Texas is a lot like the Midwest. I'm from St. Louis. The weather will change on a dime, and when it changes, it could be one day 75 degrees, the next day the high is 55. And if that happens and you didn't bring the right wetsuit, you're coming over from England or something like that, you're SOL. So now you're heading out to the local dive shop. Hopefully you can find a wetsuit so you don't get knocked out of your rig.
Well, I want to take a quick break to say that most people are going to fly in, and I made a video about this, I think in 2016, and you 100% want to pack the stuff that you're going to need. Like, you can buy boxers at Target, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't buy a wetsuit. You can't buy the shoes you love. Like, you got to pack not everything, but the stuff you freaking love in their carry-on bag 100%. Because trust me, every year somebody goes, they lost my bags. Can I borrow? Can I borrow? And the community is amazing. They'll let you borrow. But yeah, minimum your windbreaker, your wetsuit, the shoes you love, couple layers. Everything else you can buy, right? You can buy socks, you can buy underwear, you can buy food, but the stuff that you can't replace, just plan for the worst. So,
yeah, I think one year Eric Jenkins was doing tough. I think it was the toughest. He was coming into Canada anyway, and the airline lost all of his gear, and so he literally went to Walmart and bought everything that he was going to race in at Walmart, including shoes and all that. Apparently he did it okay, but actually it wasn't a toughest. He was doing multi-laps. That's what his problem was. But anyway, long story short is he bought everything he needed at Walmart, but he said it was not good. he said feet hurt forever. So you just
Oh, I'm
never know.
sure, and it's expensive, right? Most of us don't have the money to replace everything, and it's just gonna be a big weight in your mind. So, all right, back to what we were doing.
Yeah, yeah. So bring everything. One of my friends, Wade, he actually gave me some info that he thought we needed to include on this. He always brings literally everything he has. You need to be smart about that, but making sure you got all the gear that you need. One of the things that always cracks me up is that like I was at Toughest in Minneapolis last month, or now it's a month and a half ago. And we had people starting in their wetsuit, like a full wetsuit. Now it was like 70 degrees. Uh, that might be a little extreme. If you don't have anything where you can start in 70 degrees and work your way into a wetsuit, that's actually a bad plan, in my opinion, because then you're going to start out hot, and people always like to be warm, but you don't really want to be warm at World's Toughest. You want to be just comfortably cold. So have a plan to be able to, okay, what are we going to do when we start? Because it's the middle of the day. And yeah, it might be 70 degrees. Some of the water might be cold. And even if the sun's not out, you're still going to need a plan. So, having a way to go from, okay, regular clothes to something a little bit warmer to something, like a progressive plan. So having proper clothes for that. That's kind of why we're doing this thing and doing it so far ahead of time so that people can get ready. But you never want to be like really warm, and unfortunately, that's how people are. But bringing a hat, like I always have a hat, so I start off usually in a headband, and then I go to like a cold gear hat, and then all the way to my hood. So you got a progressive plan there. And usually, like, it'll take me a while. I'll run, 5 or 6 laps without any hat on my head, and then run 2 or 3, about 2 laps probably with the cold gear hat, and then progress to the hood. Keeping your head warm matters, especially when the wind's blowing and stuff like that. But having bleg mitts and gloves, meaning not necessarily like traditional gloves, but gloves like for grip, like nitrile dipped, like gorilla grip gloves, those type of things. Underneath your bleg mitts, if hopefully you got bleg mitts. If you don't have bleg mitts, Evan Paris, got to contact him, strengthspeed.com, get some of those, because those are guaranteed gear for World's Toughest Mudder. You need bleg mitts. You got to have something to put your hands in so that the air is off them and that type of stuff. Other things, people ask me, what's the most important thing other than a wetsuit? If you got a Neptune, great, bring that thing. But other than that, you got to have a jacket, like a pretty good jacket. Now, like I see people walking in with this windbreaker that they like had from 1988. And that might work, but it really doesn't like provide a barrier. Like you can see, let's put it this way. If you put on your windbreaker and you can see what's underneath it because it's so sheen that it just goes right through, it's not really providing a whole lot of assistance. Like what I typically wear is my windbreaker, my jacket is the old fashioned frog togs. It's made out of that like kind of dense material that they have like recyclable like Walmart bags. Get those type of thing. That provides some kind of like rigidity, even when it's wet. So therefore, it kind of stays away from your wetsuit, allows some air. What I always tell people is you need an air barrier between your outside environment, meaning your the outside. Then you've got an air barrier, which is like your jacket, and then you've got your wetsuit. Well, if there's no space between your jacket and your wetsuit, literally they are compressed together because your jacket generally wasn't made to work when it was wet. Then you have no air no air barrier. Like when you're walking around outside and it's cold outside, it doesn't get that cold in Atlanta, but if it's cold outside, you need some space so that your body can warm that air up. I hope this is making sense, but that's the theory that you need. Okay, what kind of jacket can I have that's going to allow that little air barrier between the outside air, which is really cold, and the wetsuit, which is made to keep me warm in the water. So we're going to create 2 environments. So a good jacket's like the main thing. Like I can go, in fact, I did this in Minneapolis. It got down to like the mid 40s in some of the places in the field. I think the recorded temperature was like 50, but it was lower than that in places in the field. I never wore a wetsuit. I never wore any type of neoprene. And I was pretty much fine the whole night. I got a little bit cold, but wasn't a big deal. Evan prepares. I think he put on his Neptune and put heat on, but I don't even know if he had a jacket on. So you can survive down to 40, down into the 40s without any type of bear, assuming you can move at a good pace. So having a good jacket can make a real difference there.
I will say I spent, I think, $15 on an Amazon windbreaker, and it worked amazing. So I don't think you have to spend a lot of money. Just shouldn't be
No.
just shouldn't be old, is what you're saying.
Yeah. My jacket, the jacket I wear costs $25 on Amazon. You know, it's not an expensive thing. Although I will say, I'll give it to Frog Togs for this. I just replaced it last year. That one lasted me 4 World's Toughest Mutters.
Yeah, and I would say wear it assuming it's not going to last. It's going to get torn up in barbed wire and whatever else. So wear it like you're never going to wear it again. So don't spend a lot of money. And if it lasts you multiple years, great.
Exactly. I'd say it's a perfect idea. You know, there's no reason to go out. Some people go out. I've seen people racing in what looks to me like $150 kayaking jacket. And I'm like, you're freaking nuts. Like that's not a good plan. That thing's going to get tore up and damaged and all that.
But I do think there is a slight distinction, right? Because you're moving pretty quick. 75 miles means you're moving the whole time, moving pretty quick. A lot of folks listening to this, they may not be as fit. They may really be struggling through it. They may have an ankle thing and they end up hobbling through it, but they don't want to quit. So you do need to, it does change a little bit. Like you could probably keep a layer off another lap longer than I could. Like in Vegas, when we were in Vegas, you know, that sun went down quick. I got maybe 2 laps in where before I put my stuff on, where you might get multiple laps in.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. And that's where it all comes into play. You know, if you're some of the top level runners, if you're, you know, Hannah Carter or somebody like that, Hannah's pretty small, doesn't have a whole lot of body size to her. But she doesn't have to cover up that much because she's moving really fast. If you take somebody who's moving, they might have twice the insulation that she has, natural insulation, but they're moving half the speed. It makes a huge difference. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but I try to, you know, stagger it because, you know, when I first started doing this, I was the guy that was getting 50, maybe 60 miles max. I was not running that many miles. It took me years to build up to that point. So the first year I did this in 2012, it was the coldest I have ever been in any World's Toughest Mudder. You know, if you were there in 2012, it got freaking cold. And everybody talks about Atlanta. I'm like, dude, no, it was colder in Jersey. It just was. I mean, there was ice on stuff, not just frost. It was straight up ice. But I could not run. And I did not have the right gear, and man, I froze my butt off. So, you know, having that progressive option, like you said, I think it matters. Just what order and how long you're in it will change based on how fast you can run. But having a lot of different stuff that you can choose, like, I want to try this. If you ask me, like, I'm going to tell you at the end of this exactly the order that I put stuff on in. And yes, your time frame as far as number of laps or what exactly time frame you put in, you may put it on different, you know, or you may skip a level, but it's progressive. You should be something similar to that, even if you're power hiking the whole way. But other than like a good jacket, you know, I always tell people it's like if you don't have something like a Neptune or something where that's unique, very unique, having just a front zip wetsuit is like a game changer. Front zip wetsuit and one of my running partner, my training partner, he has neoprene vests. So it's neoprene, it's front zip, so he can vent it when he gets hot. So that's a progressive thing. I think he's got 2 of them. He puts one on, then he can put another one on, and then but it doesn't cover his arms. One of the problems that you have if you put a really thick wetsuit on or multiple layers of wetsuit is you can't reach your arm above your head to grab Funky Monkey because you got all this neoprene pulling your arm back down. And on top of that, if you got a bunch of layers on your hips, just getting down into squat down to get underneath barbed wire crawl, you know, your hips are all tight because you got all this neoprene on. Well, think about it. Your body is running against that resistance. So if you can minimize that layer or the level of resistance for as long as you can, you're going to maintain as much energy as possible. So having a front zip wetsuit allows you to vent it. You get hot, you don't have to worry about, my full wetsuit, which I haven't worn since I don't think I've worn it since maybe the last year in Vegas. I don't wear that anymore because I don't really need it. I can layer on other things. But a rear zip wetsuit doesn't allow you to vent. You have to pull it down, whereas a front zip will allow you to vent. So having a vest, front zip wetsuit, having a vest, something like that, like socks. This is one where there's a lot of people have contention. A lot of different things people do. I wear if my feet, if it's cold outside, I'm wearing Wigwam medium weight wool hiking socks. And they provide a couple of different things. My feet never get cold, but they also, when they take on water, man, they swell up. It's like heaven. It's all cushy. It's all fantastic. So you got warm feet and they're cushy. The problem is you got to have a half size bigger shoe. But if you're doing ultra, you probably got a little bit bigger shoe anyway. But those things are like godsend as far as I'm concerned. Some people wear the booties. They don't really work, and as far as I'm concerned, they don't really work when you're running, if you're actually running, because all the water sloshes out, so you don't have anything to keep your feet warm. What do you wear? When it was cold out in Atlanta, what were you wearing?
Oh, well,
Vegas too.
I didn't run laps in Atlanta. I mean, I ran one lap in Atlanta, but in Vegas, I put on Injinji socks and I never changed them, I don't think. I might have changed once. But when I'm running more than, let's say, 4 hours even, I'm putting on Injinji because I get massive foot issues. But when I wear those things, I don't. I slather on the goo, what do you call it? Oh my god, my
Gurney
brain's
goo,
uh
squirrel nut butter.
any of those things. So we should probably
Yeah.
quickly mention that. And I also want to mention, we're going to assume you have done some like training runs, right? Now, we don't
Yeah.
expect you to be on your feet. We don't expect you to be on your feet for 24 hours. We don't expect you to have been overnight. That's great, though. Some people will do that, get together with a bunch of friends, do an overnight run, try to test some of the stuff out. But definitely go on some long runs, time on feet. And then I put that shit toes, unmentionable areas, and then the shoulders are like, you forget about where your shoulders, where the wetsuit's going to be, and a pack might be. So yeah, that's what I do in Gingy. I've never done wool, but I think are in Gingy wool socks? I can't remember.
I have. So it's funny you mentioned that. So I was going to say, once you said that, I have wool and Ingy. They do make wool ones. I have wool. They are my base layer socks. So I wear two levels of sock. That's basically my, and I always do this. I have never got, knock on wood, I have never gotten a blister at World's Toughest Mudder. So I wear an Ingy wool base layer sock. Underneath that, I put trail toes. I got my feet all lathered up, but I never take the Ingy off the entire race. And then I put another layer of sock. I start with a compression sock like Mudgear, and then switch. That's when I get cold, I switch. When I have to take my shoes off to put on my base layer, like wetsuit or basically like a frog skin thing, I wear a lava core suit. When I put that on is when I put my socks on. I change my other socks, but I never take my Ingy off. So once those are on, they don't come off the whole race.
Yeah, I don't think I changed. I changed shoes because I had a bad shoe. In my article that I wrote about when I got 50, I list all my stuff, and I think I changed shoes, but I can't remember if I changed. And I love mud gear, but I think for this, I put the Injinji on and never took them off to keep the toes separated.
Yep.
And again, that's me. Some people don't need that, but like depending on your, whatever, like I there's like one place I kind of always get a hot spot when I do an ultra, and I just expect it and I'm okay with it. But I've done a bunch of these, so now I kind of know what's going to work.
Yep. And it's foot care is a big deal. When I was prepping for my first one, I talked to a former Navy SEAL and then also an ultra runner, and they were like, "Dude, you're gonna have to change your socks regularly." I can tell you, it's actually somewhat comical. I'm not Ryan Adkins, and I haven't done a lot of. I've actually never done 100-miler, but I've done a bunch of. I've probably done 20 ultras, and I don't get blisters, and I never change socks. But I do take care of my feet. I put a lot of, trail toes on my feet, and I put those, and I wear 2 layers of socks. And making sure you don't have blisters is a big deal. Make sure you got good shoes on. So That's definitely a big deal, and that's why I mentioned that, because a lot of people talk about their feet getting cold. My feet don't get cold now. Even when I was power hiking, my feet weren't getting cold as long as I was wearing those wool socks. But it is a matter of preference, and like you said, you need to practice. I'm a trainer also. I write programming for people. Doing more than a 12-hour training run for World's Toughest is ridiculous. It takes too long to recover from. Don't do that. But if you're out there for time on feet for 6-8 hours, maybe even up to 12, whatever, you should have an idea what's going to work for you, and then apply that. Hopefully you're taking notes every time you do that, so the next year you remember what you had from the year before. But anyway, so and the other point of contention or point of note is, see a lot of people wearing a variety of wetsuit types. It's been my experience that the wetsuit, that any wetsuit that doesn't have a fabric outside, a lot of those wetsuits that have like the full rubber on the outside, Vortex or whatever the name of the brand is, those have a tendency to rip more easily, just in my experience and talking to people, because they get stuck on things. Because they're not real slick on the outside. So a surfing type wetsuit that's traditional neoprene typically works best. And if you can get one that has knee pads on it, that's what surfers, they have knee pads in the surfing wetsuits. Those work fantastic, because when you're kneeling on, that's the one thing I miss about not wearing a full wetsuit is the constant kneeling on crap. Like I do bear crawls through obstacles, like forgetting what it's called now, through the different pipes and different things, because I don't want my knees touching when it's not necessary, because it bothers your knees all the time. So, but anyway, any other particular items that you use that we haven't mentioned? I'm trying to think. Like I said, I've got my checklist. I'm going to run through really quick, and we can discuss.
Well, I feel like we're going to have a lot on the thermoregulation episode, which I know you have a lot of opinions on. I feel like we're going to get into the whole, like, how do I layer? How many layers? There's a lot of opinions on it. I think you and I are similar. I think Keith Allen wrote this great article years ago. I stuck to it like glue, and it worked for me. So I feel like we're gonna get a lot about that in that episode. So let's just kind of go over other items. Let me quickly look at what I put on that. What I wore for, I don't even remember the name of my article. World's Toughest Mudder. 50 miles, or how did I train for what? There's a lot of people who write this.
Was this 20? What year was this? 2015, you said?
I got 50 in 2016, which is amazing how fucking long ago it was.
Yeah. That was the quote unquote relatively warm year, the year that.
Well, I love that they say that, though, when it's like look at the years where we have, multiple 100-milers. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I mean, it all varies. You and I had this discussion before that last year was tough because it was cold, but some of the ways that they altered or failed to alter the course kind of resulted in a little bit higher mileage probably for some of the people than it probably would have, all this kind of stuff. So I don't know exactly. I wish I had a point of reference, because I didn't run the whole race because I was running a team. So I got to alternate the laps. So I would like to have seen what I would have gotten if I had ran the whole dang race.
Yeah, so it looks like I did have the same. Looks like I had the same socks. And one thing we didn't talk about was, where did it go? Oh, I just had it. Hang on. Oh, a neoprene cap.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned that. I have a hood. Yeah, you definitely want neoprene on your head, even if you're not, like, even Trevor Psychos, when he runs, like, you'll see him in the middle of the night, even in Atmore. He's wearing a jacket. He's wearing his shorts, which just regular shorts, but he's always got a cap on his head. So he's keeping his head warm, and that guy can handle pretty cold weather. And just keep running the whole time. So, he moves at a fast pace, but he's always got a hat on his head. You'll see him. So that's definitely important, keeping that cap on your head.
Dude, I'm looking at this article I wrote. It kind of makes me want to do the event. I'm not doing the event this year. But look how happy I am. Look at that.
Hey, man, I think you're happy because you're back out there on course instead of sleeping in the freaking hotel. I don't
What are
know.
you
It,
trying to say?
and you know, it's awesome because I just remember I think it was I don't know if it's 2050, is whatever year I think it's 20, must have been during the 2014 during the thing. Talking to Keith Allen. I run into Keith Allen at an obstacle at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, how's Matt doing? Oh, he's sleeping in the hotel. What? What do you mean he's sleeping in the hotel? Oh man, he was done like midnight. I was like,
All right,
oh.
all right. So let's break this down. This is important. Okay, this is extremely important. Okay, 2014 was the year that I was going for it. I'd been there in 12. I'd been there in 13 as media. It's like I'm gonna go for it. Okay, so me and Ryan Mead, aka the guy with the hockey stick GoPro, right?
Yeah,
And the guy we call Doc, he's Doc Juice on Instagram. I think we met Doc there. I can't even remember now because now we've all been tight. It's one of those when you've been in the bunker together, you're bonded for life. So
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
I see those guys, it just warms my heart. And so we run our laps together. Okay. And we're cooking. We got, by midnight, we hit 25 miles. You are going to slow down, but we're on pace for our goal of 50, right? This
Yep.
windstorm comes in. We come back. Our tent is literally gone. Our tent gone. Okay. My ORM tent can't find it. Finish line's coming down. And I'm like, well, I mean, they're going to have to stop this race. Like, we're going to have to finish it in the morning. I'm sure they're going to like take the like Atkins and those guys and like pit them like they do at a NASCAR race and just wait till the storm passes. And Doc goes, I got a hotel room right there. What was that nice hotel that's right next to the
I think it was a Westin. I think is actually the hotel was there.
he
It was
goes,
it was either Hilton or Westin, something like that.
he's like, I got a room right there. Let's get room service. And that was all I needed to hear. We went to that room, we got room service, and I did not regret it at all. And then the next morning we went out on course and I was like, I fucked up. I quit. That was bad. I DNF'd. I quit. Bad idea. So burn the boats, right? You can't have a
Yeah,
hotel Saturday night.
yeah,
You got to
yeah,
burn
yeah.
the boats. You have need nowhere to come back to. So that's
Can't
step
give
one.
yourself the excuse. Can't give yourself
Exactly.
the excuse.
So it's a good lesson, right? Uh,
Yeah.
get a hotel for Friday and Sunday. Have nowhere to go on Saturday. Now you could still quit, but it was a mental thing that shifted for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was my 2014 story.
Well, it's funny you say that because we were out there. I was out with Jeremy Torkelson the whole night, and Eric Jenkins and his wife and Jeremy's wife were pitting for us, and we actually felt sorry. Out on course, we were okay. We had all the gear and all that stuff. We felt sorry for them getting stuck in the pit. Rachel Jenkins had to duct tape the windows of my tent shut because it was filling full of sand during the sandstorm. But the funniest story out of that is that I remember is Evan Preparis is talking. This is his first World's Toughest, I think, and he's out there and he's running. And you said, oh, they're going to have to stop the race. They're definitely going to stop it. And he's thinking, oh man, this sucks. They're going to stop the race. And he said he's out there in the middle of the night thinking, they're not stopping this race. This is freaking crazy. This is awesome. So it's what made him want to come back. The fact that Tough Mudder would just make us stay out there during this, craziness of the sandstorm. But you do learn, don't have a place to go. If you don't have a place to go, you can't. I mean, you're less likely to stop. You're probably going to be more comfortable out on course than you would be laying in the tent, that type of stuff. But anyway, I was just giving you a little bit of trouble on that. But as far as some of the other things on my checklist, I actually have on here, treat your feet. I got the Gurney Goo, nut butter, trail toes, whatever your choice is. But some of the small things that make things easier that you wouldn't necessarily even think about is like I use a dog blinker, the little thing you put on your dog so you can see them in the dark, as my light, my safety light. Instead of a chem stick or whatever, because it's got a clip on it. It clips on. Literally, that thing has stayed on for 4 days after World's Toughest because you can't turn it off because it's wet, and it still blinks. And I use it the next year, same battery. So that thing and it costs like $6. So that's one of the things that I always use is a dog safety light. If you look on Amazon, you can get those things in various colors. I usually make mine some weird color like green or, I don't know, lavender or something. So you can see me in the dark. You know
Hey,
who this is, Rulo.
quick thought. Speaking of which, uh, they give you a bib Friday when you check in. Put your name on the back. Don't not put your
Exactly.
name on the back, or put what you actually like to be called, because people will see you in the middle of the night and they will like talk to you. So they'll be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, I mean, listen, people love to give me a hard time, but if your name's, Jackson, right? Like, Jackson, what's up? And then you'll kind of, how do they know my name? Like, it works. It
Yeah.
actually helps. So put whatever
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
you're called on the back. Uh,
Yeah.
or if you're Javier Escobar, spell your own name wrong and they'll call you that.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever, there's people who put funny stuff on there, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a like, regardless of your politics, one guy in 2021 put "Let's Go Brandon" as his name on the back of his
Oh,
thing.
Jesus. Why'd you even
Which
say that on my show? That
because
YouTube's going to demonetize me now.
it was just it was just funny. You're in the middle of the night, you're like, oh my God, that's hilarious. That's whatever you want to put on the back, but something to bring people to a better state of mind out in the middle of the night. It's good. So you can put funny stuff on there, whatever you want. Uh, One of the other things that we have that the vets use is whether you use clips or the little tassel flugel binder things that you use on that you zip your can't think what they're I can't think of the name of the thing. Anyway, use them like on the pull ties on your jacket. Things that you can use to quickly remove your bib. Like I said, it could be a clip, some type of lock, whatever you tie it on. Because the problem that you'll have is trying to get your bib off so you can put more gear on. If you've got to untie that stupid thing while they're wet, it sucks. So if you've got any type of thing that can cinch lock or unclip the bib, get it off, get it back, make sure you put it back on. That type of stuff. That type of stuff makes things easier. Lighting for your tent, tent that goes up and down fairly easy if you don't have a big pit crew. Like if you got 3 people pitting for you, you don't have to do anything once the race is over. You're like Robert Killian sitting in a chair. I always remember, I was talking to him afterwards. He's like, my wife is a saint. He's like, all I do is sit in a chair while everybody else takes the pit down and, race is over with or whatever.
But speaking of flugel binders, and speaking of keeping things on, you do want to bring a couple zip ties and zip tie that timing chip to your ankle, and then it's never coming off. Now, if you're going to change socks, that might be a problem. Bring some pliers to pop it off. But yeah, you don't want to lose your timing chip. You lose your timing chip, you're out of the race, and then you don't get credit for your miles. So zip tie that thing on.
Make sure you got the timing chip on, whichever way, shape, or form you have it attached to you. I mentioned the cord for the headlamp. That's on my list. You got beach towels and baby wipes. Clean yourself up after the race, all that kind of stuff. A running vest or a camelback, something to carry your gear in during the laps that you go. My wetsuit options: full shorty, a frog skin, or what I have is a lava core, which is similar to a frog skin. Wetsuit jacket, hood, neoprene shirt. That is one thing I didn't mention. I have a 1 mil neoprene shirt that's really stretchy. That thing is fantastic. It cost me like $40. So it's a good base layer option. The first thing you put on, if before I put anything else on, I'll put that on and run with that with a jacket over it. Grocery bags. You ever use that trick to get a wetsuit on? Put your hands through a grocery
Oh
bag.
yeah, dude. I was gonna save that. Yeah. Google grocery bag wetsuit trick to put your wetsuit on and off. Even if you have help, trust me, huge help.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a great thing. Jeremy Torkelson's wife Janet told me about that, and because I do not fit in a wetsuit easily, so that is a huge help. We talked about the Frog Talks jackets, lithium batteries, Ziploc bags. That's just something good to have with you. So grab some of those at Walmart. The other thing I always tell people is wear compression shorts or a sports bra or something as your base layer, so that when you're changing, you don't have to keep stripping down completely naked. every time you want to change your clothes. I guess that's okay if you know everybody in your pit crew and, everybody around your pit doesn't care, it's all good. But that just makes changing easier, especially if you have a tent where you can stand up, that helps too. But trash bags, sleeping bag, or a dry robe, it's good to have. Maybe not for you, if for the rest of your pit people, but I have a blanket. It's like a picnic blanket that folds up like a dry, like you can wear like a poncho. I don't have a dry robe specifically, but that's what I use in case of that. You may want to take a short nap. You have some way to keep warm.
You don't want to take any naps. Come on.
Hey, well, actually, it could be beneficial because if you take a short nap, you can actually recharge in 20 minutes and your body kind of resets itself. So we'll talk about that later.
Jason, my friend Jason, you are forgetting, okay? If you stop and you're new, the odds of you getting going again are very, what do we tell new people? Just keep moving.
Yes. There's certain situations where it might be good, but we're going to save that. We'll get down into the nitty gritty of the actual race, how you set up your race and all that stuff. Just a few other things. Like I said, gloves to kind of protect your hands, because over the time I've used it, depends on how much, like they had that ape hanger, I can't remember what they called it, but last year, where it's a cargo net that's over it. Yeah. So that thing will destroy your hands. So you need some kind of gloves just to protect your hands, not necessarily to keep your hands warm. So it's something to protect your hands overnight. That'll definitely help out. The things for your pit, like clipboard, a whiteboard, something like that, to write down various information that your pit crew might need to remember. Cooler. I use a $5 insulated cooler bag that I got at Walmart. It straps, you can put it on your shoulder and carry it. That thing's lasted me like 5 World's Toughest Mudders. You don't need to get a fancy, because like people bring in these fancy Yeti coolers. I'm like, dude, you don't really care if the food is cold. Like if it's warm, you're gonna need to go get some, warm water from the.
Aren't we getting into the pit crew stuff now, though?
Yeah, well, it's just stuff. No, I'm just saying gear. It's gear is gear, man. It doesn't matter if you bring it for pit crew. We're going to talk about pit crew stuff and specific stuff you need, but you got to bring. Some people don't even have a pit crew, so you got to have all the gear, whatever. And the other, you mentioned zip ties. I always have Gorilla Tape with me, paracord, plastic wear, just various things like that for stuff. You just never know when you might need it. But I remember one year we were putting up the tent in Vegas, and it was Corey Drumright. He's putting up the tent. He just bought a brand new tent from Walmart and it's ripped. It's already ripped. We have to duct tape one of the stakes down. We duct tape it into the actual I must use a half roll of duct tape, but it you got to have that type of stuff. So all that type of gear is like very important. And I know people love the gear one, so I thought we'd be really thorough in that one, because people are always like, man, what kind of gear can I get? What kind of gear can I? What do I need? What did I forget? So hopefully this is comprehensive. It covers everything.
All right, and we'll put links in all of this, and we'll wrap it up there. And the next episode will be on
nutrition.
All right. Talk soon.
Yes, good stuff.